Welcome. Good evening, everyone. I love to hear the kids in here. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy to see all of you. I call the Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. All board directors are present. Welcome back this evening. Please note that this regular scheduled meeting is held to conduct district business. It is open to the public and it is being recorded. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we are going to start this evening with a couple of recognitions. Our first one is our Fish Finalist program. So I am going to call Principal Ty Roebuck from Goodman Middle School to come up and talk a little bit more about what the Fish Finalist program is all about. It is not on.
It's on. Is it on?
I can't hear.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Sounds like it's on.
Jade to the rescue.
Sounds like it's on. It's on.
Check.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just need a little bit more volume.
We'll speak up really loud.
There we go.
Hey, thank you so much. We have two students who are in our finalists, Binary Fragquez and Scarlett Kelly. They have been competing in a design a fish through our science program. I'm going to let them share a little bit about how they came up with their designs, but they are down to the final 8. Right. So when we sent this to you, it was the final 17. We had a fish off with voting through Instagram, and they are now the final 8. So creations to them. And I'm going to let them really take the show because it's all about them and what they've been doing in their classes.
Great.
Okay. Is this thing on? Oh, I'm going to assume it is. Hi, first of all. I'm really honored to be here. Okay, how did I make my fish? To be honest, when my science teacher, or old science teacher, Miss OK, gave me the fish template, I was working on another assignment for social studies, and I was coloring it in, and I was like, you know what, this is really boring. Let's do the fish thing, because I have to do that for my teacher. So, I don't know how to explain it. I just did it. That's all I can say. And it's a scarecrow fish, obviously, but sorry. What did I base it off? Lately, I've been listening to like a lot of, I guess, folklore music. So I guess that's kind of an inspiration. And also, let's be honest here, scarecrows are really cool. Yeah, they don't get enough attention. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's a cool fish. I made a bunch of mistakes that only I can see, but everybody else, it doesn't matter because everybody else likes it. So, yeah, that's pretty much all of it.
Great.
Yeah.
When my teacher gave me this fish, she told us that we didn't have to do the argument that she assigned us, and instead we could have colored in a fish. And I got this idea off of my favorite painting, The Starry Night.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about what the assignment was originally, and then how you took maybe some artistic license with how you completed the task?
So all we had to do was color in a fish, and the goal was to to color in a fish, and we couldn't do anything copyrighted.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And what do you love can you tell us about the artist that you chose as your model for this?
I love Van Gogh. I love all his paintings, and I have a few of Starry Night pictures up on my wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have so many questions. So I mean, if you have other ones, I'm kind of curious about who you're competing against. Where did this come from? What does it mean to be in the top 8? Is it a state thing? Tell us a little bit more about who your competition is.
So a bunch of schools. I don't know which schools, but there's a lot of schools and across the state. And 1,000 fish were colored in, and only 16 got picked.
Wow. That's impressive. 2 from Goodman. That's amazing. And you both have done such beautiful work. So what did you use to color with? Is this?
Colored pencil.
It's colored pencil? Colored pencil and paper.
And a flare pen.
You know what? We have seen before some art projects where one group of students will take a drawing and then another group of students will make a 3D model of it out of clay or, gosh, we've even, like at the Chihuly Glass Museum, they've done glass drawings of it. These would be really cool. Yeah. Any other questions from the board?
I was going to say, these 3 fish, or these fish are moving on to the state,
The
or
final
whatever.
8. So out of the 1,000, 16 finalists from the state. And then, like we said, they've been doing voting through Instagram. So they do kind of like a fish versus fish, and then you vote for it. So they both made it to the finals. They're now to the final 8.
Yeah.
And this is through part of the unit on salmon, and they actually watch the salmon go upstream, and they actually can see which ones get to the very end. This is one of the projects they can choose. They can answer some questions, or they can fill in a fish. As you can imagine, a lot of middle schoolers choose filling in a fish. We put them all over the walls. Teachers actually fill them out too, so we have a big like fish wall, and just kind of building in the idea of where we're at in the Pacific Northwest and the life cycle of salmon. So.
Yeah. So I was going to say, without giving away which one I think is my favorite, Dolly Parton wrote a song a long time ago about coat of many colors. It's about a patchwork coat that her mom made for her. And the scarecrow fish looks like a coat of many colors. So I just think it's really, really cool and a really good imagination there. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When do you guys find out, and what do you get? What happens if you win?
Oh, so when we win, we will have. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over. I'm
Confidence.
sorry. So what happens when we win is that there will be a professional artist that will interpret our fish into the whole survive the sound thing, and they'll put the fish in the program, I'm pretty sure, like the actual fish made by the professional artist, and then you can choose it as like one of the, I'm trying to find a word, I'm sorry. You can choose it as one of like the icons that you can use to see your fish like go around.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
And that'll be used across the state.
What's the Instagram page that we can all go to vote?
Oh, I believe it's at longlive.king.
I'm gonna double check.
Okay.
You're doing great. Keep going.
I believe it's longlive.kings. Is that it?
It just says Instagram on this page, so we will get it to you guys.
Okay,
It's on our school.
It does say at
Yes.
Okay, homework for everybody in the audience and everyone watching is go to the Instagram page and vote for these young ladies and these amazing fish. That is cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Right. Well done. Okay. Item 2.2 on the agenda this evening is School Board Recognition Month, which I feel like we did the last one, but I'm told to turn it over to Creston at this point, so.
Yeah. Okay. We have a heartfelt thank you to our dedicated school board directors for their leadership and service to the community. Their commitment to students, staff, and families drive our continued success. And I think that I have some help from our student reps. Yes, come on. We have recognition and snack, correct? All right. I think it's time for a photo. Come on up. They were supposed to come up faster. Let's see. Look at that.
VHS leadership put this together. Really appreciate you guys and everything you guys do.
All right, let's come on up here. Yes.
They don't want to stand with the Peninsula poster. You guys don't have
Success is no accident.
It's hard work, perseverance, learning, study,
Sacrifice. And most of all, love. For what you are doing.
We're learning to do.
Thank you for everything you do for our kids, for our staff, for our transportation. We know that the decisions that you have to make are very difficult, but necessary to keep our school district functioning. So once again, thank you and have a great appreciation.
Thank you, school board.
Thank you, school board.
Success is no accident.
It's hard work, perseverance, learning, study,
Sacrifice.
Oh, boy. There's always one. Be proud.
Did you bake them yourself?
Spread the love. Thank you, guys. That was really, really thoughtful. Thanks to everyone who worked on that. We appreciate it.
That was really thoughtful.
Okay, let's move on to some business. Item 3 on our agenda this evening is to approve the agenda. So is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Lori and seconded by David to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the agenda is approved. We are moving on to item 4. This is, timing. All right, Gig Harbor can go first. Our student representative reports to the board. So we will start with Gig Harbor tonight.
I'm Logan Toms, the senior rep for Gig Harbor High School. I'm happy to be here, and I would also like to say thank you to our school board. We don't have a poster, nor do we have a video, but we have heart. That's what we have. And I'm sure everyone at the school feels the same. So, so the first semester is almost up, almost halfway through the year. It's very exciting to be a Tide. For some general stuff, just yesterday we had our day off for MLK Day, and the prior Monday, on January 13th, we had our MLK Assembly with guest speaker Aaron Jones, who spoke a lot about Dr. King and his message and some of the stuff that isn't always covered just in our normal classes. One important thing I wanted to mention about like the semester almost ending is that from January 22nd to 28th, we're having our Dead Week, which was one of the things that was mentioned by Ms. Suter and the Gig Harbor administration at the school improvement plan reports, where it's just making sure that students have a week and a couple days to make sure that they're getting all their required assignments in so they can get the credit that they need. Also, our senior scholarship notebooks are being turned in today and Thursday. I turned mine in already, and I'm very happy with that being over. But I would like to shout out the Gig Harbor Tide Scholarship Foundation for always supporting students in their next steps. On a different note, we had our food basket, which concluded on January 16th. I'm sad to say Gig Harbor did not win. And we definitely need to look at what Peninsula is doing to get better. But overall, the event was a pretty big success and is definitely going to support our local charity organizations. For sports, Unified Basketball started off their season with a large tournament hosted in the Gig Harbor High School gym. It also featured the Gig Harbor High School band and cheerleaders who came to support the program and cheer them on for their game. There's also, I'm hearing, a Unified game going on tonight, which is very exciting. Our cheerleading team had their Cheer Fest on January 11th, a regional cheer competition and qualifier for the state tournament that also serves as a fundraiser. In total, there were over 1,700 athletes, 260 coaches, 3,000 tickets sold, food trucks, indoor vendors, and volunteers. Cheer qualified for state on January 18th, or for January. They qualified for state. I'm sure of that.
Then hi, my name is Caitlin. I'm the junior rep from Gig Harbor. So continuing on with our sports, our Gig Harbor High School sailing team was able to go down to Long Beach, California for the Rose Bowl Regatta, where they were able to place third out of 28 different teams there. So that was a super cool event they could attend. And then in our other sports, kind of the ones that go on throughout the winter as well, our boys swim and dive is taking on Mount Tahoma at the Mount Tahoma pool tonight, and that started at 3:30. And then we also wanted to give a congratulations to Max Ferrier, who qualified for state in diving. And then along with that, Sam Harris and Johnny Kapling are also qualified for districts in diving. Our bowling team has matches against CK that started at 3 p.m. today, and our girls basketball also travels to Lincoln tonight for an away game. Our boys basketball plays Lincoln at home, and that game started at 5:15. And then our new girls flag football team had a game that started at 4:30, and that was out at Bellarmine. And then in terms of clubs and activities, Gig Harbor High School's Key Club and our Knowledge Bowl are throwing a community-wide trivia night fundraiser on January 24th, and that'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be a really great event to raise some money and to have a fun time kind of engaging with the community. And then along with that, HOSA is going to be holding a blood donation bus drive on February 14th in the school parking lot. That'll be to support our local hospitals through some crucial blood donations during this time of the year. And then in terms of our feeder schools, Gig Harbor was actually able to partner with Discovery Elementary, where some students were able to go over and talk to their 5th grade classrooms after school. 3 days, that kind of first week back to school, they were able to talk about some study skills, how their future in education could look like, some things to look forward to in middle school and high school. So that was a really great event to go to. And then along with that, our middle school girls basketball, they have their Jamboree January 23rd, and that'll be at Harbor Ridge and Goodman Middle Schools, kind of based and separated on your grade level. And Interact Club and NHS have been supporting Goodman and Kopachuk after school tutoring throughout this year, just kind of making sure that all those students get the help that they need, rounding up their quarter system and getting all their grades turned in. Thank you.
How long has that been around? Did you know? That's amazing.
All right, I'm Adam Massery. I'm the senior rep for Peninsula High School. So just a few things going on at Peninsula. We had our empathy assembly, which went amazing. We had 2 student speakers who shared personal stories about them at our school and really moved the entire school. We also had a PHS gift drive, where we donated gifts geared toward our high school students to the Fish Food Bank. We also had a winter social, which had around 200 students attending, which was after-school event to foster a school fellowship after the empathy assembly. Also for our seniors, scholarship notebooks were turned in beginning of January, and a lot of people I saw at Office Depot rushing with me to print all our photos. But January 15th was the fish basket assembly, so Gig Harbor versus Peninsula basketball game. It was just to promote some sportsmanship for the game that night, and our teams did really well. They were really close games, and our students who attended were great sports. We also had our first ever food basket, so that was sponsored by POC, BSU, I don't know what that is, Key Club, and our leadership classes at both schools. So that was really nice, getting to donate over 6,000 items for food backpacks for kids. And then also last week we had our MLK assembly. Julie Smith was our speaker. She did an amazing job. And then POC and leadership also did they took a pretty active role, and they did a little thing where they held up posters with terms that they defined, and we're like, yeah. We're also gearing up for the end of the semester. Pretty sure after this week it's just 4 more days, so basically grades are permanent unless you have a great big final. And then winter sports are starting to wrap up, and their seasons are going into their and tournaments. Also, band has a solo ensemble on February 1st. I'm pretty sure it's at PHS. And then our PHS Got Talent is going to be in early February. So that's the big senior talent show, which is always a ton of fun every year. And now we're going to do some feeder school stuff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate, and I'm our junior rep. I'm just going to apologize for my voice. I lost it this weekend at my tournament, so I'm still recovering, so I'm sorry if it's hard to hear me. Anyway, starting with Key Peninsula. So they finished December celebrating with Spirit Days and a holiday social, and they also did a staff spirits calendar. They wrapped up their wrestling season with a district championship meet that was held at Peninsula. They had their holiday store, which is a huge success, where students brought gifts and bought gifts for their friends and family that were $1 each. And then in this month, they've had a great transition into the new year with an MLK assembly on the 17th, and then upcoming they have their quarter 2 awards and recognition assembly on the 30th. Also, they will be giving awards to the top 30 students who show the most growth in iReady testing. And then lastly, they're starting their girls basketball season. Harbor Ridge ended a very successful wrestling season as district champs. They had many new clubs start up in the last month. Their Found Club, Art and Games Club, Inclusion Club, and Volleyball Club, which starts on the 30th. Coming up, they have a band concert on the 22nd and a district girls basketball jamboree on the 23rd. They will be having a winter social in February, and their last one had over 300 students, so they're looking forward to that. And they also made growth in their panorama survey in the sense of belonging portion. And then moving on to our elementary schools, Minter Creek had Missoula Children's Theater do Treasure Island last week, and they had over 40 students participated. They had dancing classrooms with the Colors of the Rainbow events on last Saturday, and they had 10 fifth graders competing. And then they have been doing Dancing Dolphins twice a week, which is an after-school club for students to learn how to dance. And they've had 30 kids participating each week. And then over winter break, they installed their first water bottle filling station, and they have already saved over 150 water bottles. And then lastly, they delivered 250 salmon eggs, and they will be hatched soon and then hand delivered by third graders in April. So they're excited about that. In Purdy, they just started their new program called Purdy Reads on last Monday, and their goal is to promote comprehension, vocabulary, and love of reading. So each student was given the same book called The Wild Robot, And there's a reading schedule where each kid reads a certain number of chapters each day, and so everyone stays on the same pace. And then today they should have read chapter 18 through 21. And then for Vaughn, so throughout the last week, they've been practicing their emergency lockdown procedures. So they did lockdowns during lunch, recess evacuation, as well as a general building classroom lockdown. They also had parent observers and the district safety officer to help give feedback on what went well and what needs to be improved. And students have been completing their iReady winter diagnostic, and they're excited to see the growth that students will show. And that's all from our feeder schools.
Yeah, a lot going on. Wow. And I just want to point out that Lauren and Amelia are both unable to make it tonight. Lauren is playing Unified, and Amelia is doing some work in a theater group in Bremerton. So off doing things that they love, and we appreciate that. So thank you guys. Any questions for our students? Comments? No, it's always just a great reminder about all the things that make school so fun. It's all the extra stuff. Like the academics are important, but I know that we stay for other reasons. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for the outreach to the feeder schools. It's been a few years that we've been trying to get that going, and this team here has really done a phenomenal job. So whatever you've done, that's the model to follow for next year. So well done. All right. All right, moving on to reports. Item 5 on the agenda this evening. The first report that we have is from our Gig Harbor High School Observing Program. So I think Mr. Volgamuth, if he's here, and students. Oh, the students are going to take it. Outstanding. All right.
All right, first off, we'd like to thank Superintendent Barr for inviting us here. We're the Gig Harbor High School Observing Program. We deal with high-tech telescopes and working with those to take photos like this one of the North American Nebula and deep space objects. And like you all have, of just really far away objects in space, and we bring out all this color through different software we use, and it communicates with the telescope, so it doesn't take it with the naked eye. It uses 3 different sets of filters that takes pictures of such as hydrogen alpha, sulfur 2, and oxygen 3, and then we colorize those and stack them all.
Our program at Gig Harbor High School comes in 2 main forms. We have students in the class who are doing a by-the-book class on astronomy and the physics, as well as some of the other varietals to do with that. Then we have some of our students, such as these 3, who are instructional practicums in the class, learning how to operate the software and hardware that we take some of these wonderful photos that you're seeing on the screen behind me with. Some of us are students like me who have come in from outside the class in order to do the observational work and continue doing what we love. When we're doing this, we're taking the hardware that we have spent years acquiring in order to gather these excellent photos and the large amount of skill that is required to demonstrate this, what we believe is Hubble quality imagery. Now, I believe Mia will come up and give you a talk about about the technical details behind how we actually acquire that.
In terms of how we acquire the photo, like Seamus was saying, we are not able to take these photos in broad visible light because we take them in the Gig Harbor High School parking lot. So to avoid interference from the light, we take it by filtering based on what kind of gas emits the specific type of light we're looking for. For example, one of the filters we use is hydrogen alpha. That filters to just allow the light coming from a specific kind of hydrogen. It comes into our telescope black and white, we colorize it red, and all of the red that you see in the photo is where, in that actual nebula, all of the hydrogen is. We then do that process again for 2 different gases, sulfur and oxygen, colorize them differently. Sulfur is blue and oxygen is green, and that layers to provide all the colors you're seeing. So not only are these photos incredibly stunning to look at, they also serve as sort of maps of what the gas composition of the nebula is. So we're actually able to learn a lot about what we're looking at based on how it ends up colorizing. When we take these photos, they're over long periods of exposure. Typically, a singular photo is anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes of exposure time. Then we stack several of these images, potentially up to an hour or hour and a half of imaging for each type of gas we look at. And then again, we repeat this process 3 times. By stacking the photos and taking long exposures, we're able to get very, very high amounts of detail. The detail is also aided by the hardware and software we use. We have a very precise telescope and mount so that we're able to move the telescope at very, very slight intervals to track with the stars. We have multiple softwares that also assist in tracking and stacking these images so that they can line up perfectly. And also, after we've taken all of these photos, we do a post-picture editing process in Photoshop that Ashley will now tell you about.
The Photoshop part is one of my favorites. We get to take these images which have the 3 separate gas layers, and then we take them into Photoshop and we do some adjustments. Because when we take these photos, they're in black and white, and we really want to make the darks darker and the light lighter so we can really bring out the shapes and the gas in the image, because each nebula makes a really pretty shape like the North American Nebula. So it's really fun to be able to like coax all the light out of it. And then we take all the different filters and we add a different color. So there's red, blue, and green. And then once we add color and are done making the images come out and come to life, we stack them. So you can get these really pretty colors of not just red, blue, and green, but you get the purples and the yellows. And you can really see how the gases layer and how they interact with each other. And you make really pretty and vibrant nebulas that are really just awe-inspiring.
Now that we've gotten through the main portion of our presentation, we would like to open the floor to questions from the board if you have any for us.
So there's a lot of talk right now about the planets that are visible. Are you guys looking at the planets as they come near, and how close, what kind of images can you get on them?
Well, the planets are coming close. In order to photograph the astronomical imaging that you were specifically talking about, this is deep sky imagery, whereas that would be intersolar system imagery, while our telescope is generally looking further past that.
Okay.
Additionally, when it comes to the planetary alignment that you were talking about, that it would be likely a wide angle generic camera lens. Like the ones that you are familiar with, a DSLR camera or such, taking a shorter exposure and generally pointing straight up towards that object in the sky, not necessarily looking at imaging of the planets.
Okay. So you're looking way beyond.
Generally, that is correct.
Okay. Wow. Very cool. Yeah. Have you seen any UFOs?
I don't believe we have, but thanks to Elon Musk, we haven't seen an extraordinary amount of Starlink.
Okay.
Hey, I was just going to, she mentioned that you have a star tracker, but is that what you do? You use to compensate for the rotation of the Earth?
So that would be called Silurian time, which we use to demonstrate the rotation of the Earth and account for that within our star tracking software. We use a software called Stellarium to find the positions of the stars in right ascension and declination, which gives us their celestial coordinates in the sky. This software allows us to point that to our mount that the telescope is mounted on, and that allows us to track whatever object that we point at within roughly 1/3000th of with a roughly 1/3000th of a pixel loss over an hour. I believe Mia has something she would like to say.
Sorry. In addition to what Jack was saying about the Stellarium software, we also have another software, PhD2. That one aligns with stars in the area, and it allows us to take a picture of where the telescope is and compare it to a picture of where the telescope thinks it is. and then move the telescope to align it. And like Jack was saying, we are able to use these softwares to keep it within a very, very precise amount of drift. So it adjusts every 2 to 5 seconds where it believes the picture is, and it frequently moves within about 0.2 of a pixel at a time. So that's between the software and the hardware, we're able to get really, really precise with how far we move.
So that allows for the 15-minute exposure time, so it doesn't.
It does. Between the sidereal tracking and the different softwares with plate solve and resyncs, that's the process of comparing to where you think you are versus where you actually are. We're able to track it perfectly over that 15 minutes and even sometimes half-hour exposures.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm curious about the filter. Well, I have just 2 questions. Is it line of sight, so this still has to be done on a really clear night? And then the filters, are they, what is it filtering? How do you pick a filter for a certain gas?
First of all, for line of sight, yes, it is generally you have to have a very clear night. We've experimented with trying to view in poorer conditions, such as one night it was very smoky. We weren't sure how that would affect it, but it turns out all of the individual particulates in the smoke will reflect the light. So it's almost like you're trying to shoot directly into the sun when you're shooting into a very smoky night. It just doesn't work. But we have various weather apps that tell us generic weather, like clouds and humidity, and then also measurements of seeing and transparency, sort of how stable the air is in addition to normal weather. So you do have to look for specific conditions for imaging. And then with the filters, it allows for hydrogen alpha, for example, gives off a certain kind of light on the visible light spectrum. It's a very, very bright red. So when we close the filters and just pick our hydrogen alpha filter, we're only allowing in the light that hydrogen alpha gives off. Yeah.
So if you may remember from your high school physics class, I believe there was likely an optics unit. Within that optics unit, you likely learned about the different wavelengths of light. These filters allow us to filter out all other wavelengths of light and only capture that one. That one wavelength of light was a specific energy level jump of that electron within that atom. Hydrogen alpha is one electron jump within hydrogen alpha, within hydrogen jumping a energy state, which will then produce that photon at that specific wavelength, which is, I believe, around 836 nanometers. The same applies to other elements such as sulfur, where we are looking for the second jump, or oxygen, where we are looking for the third, hence hydrogen alpha, O2, sulfur 2, and oxygen 3.
Amazing. Yeah.
I just want to say, you guys, all 4 of you are fantastic presenters. I have had the opportunity to see some college students, seniors, presenting their honors thesis a few times, and sometimes it can be hard for students of a particular subject to articulate that to an audience that doesn't know anything about the subject. And you guys are really gifted at that. And so this was super fun, and you made it easy for us to understand. Well, as easy as could be for people who haven't studied it.
For yourself, my mind is blown right now.
I'm not saying I could give a presentation now based on this, but it's thanks for sharing these with us, and it's just fantastic the work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, 2 questions. How do you pick which deep space objects you're looking at, and which are your favorites, and why?
In terms of picking what objects we look at, it's mostly based on the object's position in the sky. So we like to shoot objects that at the time we are going out to observe, which varies throughout the year based on when it gets dark, are going to be as close to directly over us as possible. Because when you're observing through the atmosphere, it actually matters the angle. If you're going straight up, you're only cutting through this much atmosphere, versus if you're cutting across the equator, it's a lot more. And the more air you're going through, the more variability it has, and the worse the seeing ends up being. So we like to look for objects that are directly above us and also that are of a certain size and certain proximity to us, so we're able to take very good photos. There's some incredibly interesting nebulas that are unfortunately a little too far away for us to currently get good photos of. But on the other hand, there's Andromeda, which, since it's a galaxy, we're able to take stunning photos of, like that one, despite the fact that it's about 2 million light years away, versus everything else we take photos of is usually a couple of thousand.
That's amazing. All right, one more question, at least from me. Your names and what grades you're in and what you want to do after high school.
Hello, I am Jack Petrie, a senior at Gig Harbor High School, and I am intending on going to college for astrophysics.
I'm Mia Colombo. I'm a sophomore at Gig Harbor High School, and I intend to pursue forensic science after high school.
Cool.
I'm Ashley Eisenberg. I'm a senior, and I want to be a youth pastor.
Outstanding. That's great.
My name's Seamus Roberts, and I plan on getting a master's in mechanical engineering.
Outstanding. Any questions from our students? I forgot to ask you about the fish. I'm sorry.
Just quickly, how is your program funded? Because I'm sure this is thousands of dollars worth of hardware and software.
So thankfully, it's all funded by Mr. Wolgamith, the telescope and everything, our own time. We kind of take it out of our schedules, kind of like a club or a sport. So we do that. All the funding comes from Mr. Wolgamith, and don't forget to thank the donors. And the donor of the telescope, which was very nice of them.
Wow. That's very cool. Yeah, of course.
Well, you know, I'm your huge fan, and had an opportunity to meet all of you during the innovation afternoon, that evening that we had here, and you got me right behind your computer and all of the software and hardware. And so I really encourage any younger students to come to the innovation, but also this can be something that you can also do when you get to high school or maybe even middle school. So shout out to a fantastic teacher who has ignited a program and I'm sure has changed each one of your lives. So thank you guys for coming so much and for saying yes. And these beautiful pictures.
Thank you for these.
Are we able to keep these, or we need to give these back to you?
Keep them.
Oh, wow.
All right, we'll put them up.
Can we
in
get
the
a picture with you guys and the big
Thank you
poster?
so much.
Of course. Thank you for having us all here. Also, we will get your photo to you.
I remember all about that half a nanometer and an alpha wave and all that.
Of course you do.
Like a super smart. I bet he
Outstanding. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item 5.2, our district technology report with our Chief Information Officer, Chris Hagel, and Coordinator of Innovation and Technology Support, Mel Benner.
All right. Well, I'm going to start out and let Mel take over for the first part of this presentation, and she brought a bunch of students with her as well, and so we'll do that first, and then I'll kind of wrap up with some of our work on AI. So, Mel Benner.
Thank you. Hello, good night, Superintendent Barr, President Windblurley, thank you. It's the note I didn't write down, right? And of course, phenomenal. It was so fun to watch the observing team here tonight. But I'm excited to bring you a wide variety of other innovations and kind of talk about the innovation about the sustainability and the strategic nature that is innovation in Peninsula. We are cutting edge in a lot of emerging technologies, but we also want to make sure it's a student experience that really represents all of our students and engages as many students in what could be their future. So I've been really intentional about building this idea that I want the work of innovation to inspire and empower every child every day through the effective use of innovative tools in education, ensuring that all students receive high quality, personalized, and responsive learning experiences through our technology, regardless of what that is. Is it a telescope? Is it a robot? Is it a VR headset? You know, a variety of things, not just their devices, but also what are those things we're doing with the devices that really make meaningful learning. So yeah, and then, next slide. Thank you. One of the things I was fortunate to do was very early on, I sat and I just began looking and listening and watching all of the amazing innovations that existed in Peninsula. And I wanted to highlight those. So I had the opportunity to work with our superintendent cabinet, with Chris Hagel and Michael Farmer, and host a Focus on Education night, where we worked really hard to pull out opportunities to present innovations that are happening across our system in wide and small scale. One of the goals I really had for that night was to really focus on showcasing how the technology that we provide to our classroom is being taken, synthesized, and then turned into opportunities like you'll see tonight. And also show some of that opportunity of where our district funding is going. If we're saying technology is a priority, how do we see that actually being executed in the classroom with students? And so that was such a fun night. We had so many things, and the innovations were beyond just what I feel like I saw the traditional example of ed tech, right? We have everything from music teachers, we have our VR systems, we had so many things. Plant identification was in there, all kinds of amazing things. And that was such a fun night to celebrate. One of the things we got to highlight there, I believe on the next slide, was our, oh, no, never mind. The picture was on the previous slide, but that's okay. Was our robotics clubs and as well. And we had so many booths. So I started out hoping to have 17 opportunities to show off. And we ended up having 37 different booths that came from a variety of industries within our system. So we had CTE partnerships. We had multiple booths per school because they just had so much they wanted to bring and celebrate. 19 of those booths, we tried to really encourage the schools to make sure that they brought students to co-present with them. And that was what was powerful to me, is so many of them worked to bring kids to also present to. And it was definitely an evening where the feedback from even the staff was just the opportunity to see each other's successes and be inspired by their peers really helped bolster the energy around how we are helping support our kids, which was really great. On top of that, in December, I had the opportunity to launch a series of things around computer science and coding, and we did some great activities, had some amazing turnout after that event of students having a chance to do that. So then that leads me to our, December was a busy month, our robotics clubs. So this year, one of the things I really wanted to help support the growth around is bringing about access to robotics and coding for students. And we started at the elementary. So I opened up the opportunity, a very small door, just to see if it could be a kind of a field test year about what does this look like in our schools. And I had 5 teachers jump on and say, sign us up, bring it here. And tonight I actually have one particular club with us, so I'm gonna actually let them do the talking about the benefit and impact of bringing elementary robotics to PSD. But before then, I'm gonna call up Camden, Kyle, Rohan, Jaden, Sam, Connor, and Timmy. And I think Henry had to take off, but if you're here, you can come on up. And I'm going to let them each say their name and then kind of one thing that was either their favorite part or something that they felt they learned or why they really are excited to have robotics here. This team in particular, you'll notice the medals, they actually made it past the first round of competitions in December to semifinals, which was this last weekend we went to Kent for a big event as well. So it was great with their robotic design. So here we go.
Hi, my name is Camden, and my favorite part about the robotics team was, I think, building the robot a lot and like improving our robot.
Hi, my name is Rohan, and my favorite part was probably like coming in for our recess to practice presenting.
Hello, my name is Timmy, and the thing I enjoyed most was, I guess, being with my friends, like getting to present and learn new stuff.
Hello, my name is Connor, and the thing I enjoyed the most was probably researching our passion project on rice husk.
Hello, and my name is Kyle, and my favorite part is probably learning how to problem solve.
Hi, my name is Sam, and probably my favorite part was coding with my friends.
Hi, my name is Jaden, and my favorite part was looking at other teams' ideas.
So hold on. One thing I will point out about the first program, so that's the group that we decided to pursue robotics with. There's a lot of companies out there, but we really see the value of FIRST around their idea of gracious professionalism and cooperation, but also specifically around the idea that the students are developing robots with a solution in mind to a real world problem. They're competing in a competition in a game set, and then they're also researching and presenting a solution independent of their robot that could solve a real world problem. So I'm actually going to hand it to our two gentlemen that have the presentation boards. Do you want to say one thing about what you presented on or your solution?
Well, we presented on like how to save the orcas because the problem of our presentation is that many orcas are dying from tire pollution. And our solution was to make tires out of eco-friendly materials like rice husks. And he has a visual example, pull it off the board.
Yeah.
Rice husks.
Yeah. So this is. Yeah. And then.
So I guess for the other projects, I wasn't really too big into it, so I think I should hand the mic to someone else. I'll hand it to Sam.
About the robot? Okay. Process. So the process we made it, so we actually made like 3 prototypes, and some of them fell off the table, literally. And so sometimes we like came up with different attachments for the robot, and sometimes they didn't work, sometimes they did. And coding it, we literally hang out. We went like during recess, we went into the STEM room to work on coding and our project.
Yeah, the passion and the excitement that the students had for this transcended time, and there was a lot of times where their teacher was amazing to offer those opportunities for them to use their recesses and alternative times to come together and work on this beyond just that traditional after-school program. And so yeah, we're excited for this. So I see a raised hand, so yeah.
So are y'all using Lego Mindstorms?
Well, we are using the Lego platform, but Mindstorm was retired about 2 or 3 years ago, so they have shifted to Lego, I believe it's Spike, correct? Spike, which is one of their more modern platforms. What's really nice about it is it's shifted to a block-based coding system, so it's in a lot of parity with other coding platforms. So if you've done an hour of code event, you'll have used a pretty similar coding platform. So it's a lot more accessible for students to jump in at a higher level with coding, but then also get right into the same quality of robot built by Lego.
The reason is my sons competed in mine storms when we lived in Italy in the military.
Yes.
And they competed against other teams all over Europe, military teams, and they all had the same challenge. So is this the same, all the teams?
Very
have the
similar
same
program.
challenge?
So yes, they leveraged the Lego platform. They come together with a single challenge. This year's theme was dive, so it was about underwater activities and research. So their project had to be around something that was in the water. They had to connect. Many of the projects on the table were tied to underwater robotics or things that are happening under the sea.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I am going to thank this great team here, and they can go take a seat again, and then maybe I'll hand it. Oh, no, I see another hand. So sorry. I'd love that. I'd love that if we could do a quick pause and do a quick picture. Come on up. Let's get them up here. Yeah, come on up, Nicolette. Yeah, we'll have Nicolette and David come on up, the team captain as well.
Once they hit the start button, the robot acts.
Yeah, it has to be autonomous. Yeah, in much ways.
Do rice concentrates exist? Are you ready? Cool. Okay, sorry. 1, 2. Thank you, parents, for bringing
Yeah, there's a lot of great opportunities for connecting this work up as these students grow and their interest continues. We have, like I said, I like to build sustainable programming, so it'll be about how do we make sure that this lasts, and then also how do we come up with solutions for building it up into the upper grade levels over the next few years. So be on the lookout for more. One of the other final things I'm going to do before I transition this right over to Chris Hagel is just say that something new that I have definitely been working towards is some of this partnership that we were invited to be a part of recently with Stanford University. They are doing a lot of research around cutting edge AI, and so we've been digging in on what AI tinkeries could look like, and they invited us as a kind of an early adopter of AI to go down and explore that, and that adoption is something I'm looking forward to start supporting in the facilitation as well. So, but that though, I'm going to hand it off to Chris to talk about far more exciting things that he's doing with AI.
Yes. Yeah. So they took the concept of a makerspace that we've known for years and just figured out what could AI look like if you were to have a makerspace that is all about exploring AI tools. And they've called it the Tinkery.
And Chris, can I just say that you were invited by Stanford
We were.
to come, and there was a team that went down, and you guys were hand selected. So congratulations to all of you, and Mel, welcome, 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 because you have quite a name in this state. So thank you for everything.
It's true. Lucked out to get Mel on our team. So. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to just kind of share is some of the work we've been doing. Many of you are aware Superintendent Barr has her superintendent student advisory groups that she meets with throughout the year. And we wanted to talk about how we're using AI to kind of look at those a little bit differently. And so this year, we had the first student advisory group was back in November, end of November. As you can see in the picture, we broke up the groups into smaller teams. I think there was 5 groups total. And what we did is we transcribed all of the conversations that the kids were having in these focus groups. And so we used AI transcription software to turn all of the conversations into text. Now, it's not tied to any of the students. We don't know who said what or any of that kind of thing. But we have now text from all of these conversations. And so, Jenny, can you go to and I'm not going to read through these. These are just some of the prompts that we asked AI. So we took all of these transcripts and dumped them all into AI tools. And we're really trying to look at, is there things we can learn that maybe we don't hear when we're sitting listening to the students tell us? Things that maybe an unbiased or person that doesn't know anything about the kids that are there, what would it come up with, or what would AI come up with? And so we asked it questions, things like, what various themes might we not have seen in the transcripts that we might not have easily identified? Please act as a PhD level social scientist. Help me identify any more ideas that we might have missed in these transcripts. Asking it questions like that allows the AI to help us maybe look at areas of our conversations with the kids that we might not have picked up on just on listening. Jenny, can you go to the next slide? And then we took it and said, all right, now act as an academic researcher and an editor. Take all of your analysis of all of these transcripts and write it into an executive summary. And then we had to do a follow-up with what questions and conversations might we have with kids in our next conversation when we bring them back. And then on the last slide here, Jenny, and then tell us some new solutions that we might never have thought of to solve some of the problems that the kids were bringing forward. And so with that, we created a whole report. It's about 7 pages long. And we're going to be taking that next week back to our students and saying, hey, we're going to give them an opportunity to read through this report and say what AI thought of listening to their conversations and what it thought of some of the suggestions to some of the problems that they brought forward, and just kind of get their feedback and see, did this work? Was this valuable? Was this a possibility of something we should expand on and try in the future? I know in looking through the report and looking through all of the stuff, there were things that we've never discussed here as ideas or possible suggestions for the future. And so we're really excited to see next week what it looks like when the kids actually get their hands on this and they're going to try and take a look at the report and explore some of that. We also turned the report into a podcast, so you can listen to an 18-minute podcast about the whole thing too. And so there's really some new, interesting, fascinating ideas and things we can explore using AI. And so we just wanted to share this one simple thing. Is it's allowing us to do things that we've never done before, and maybe look at things in different ways that we've never had an opportunity before as well. And so just wanted to share that. And then on the final slide, going to give you a sneak peek. Superintendent Barr and I are presenting at the end of the month at a AI Super Summit. Oh God, that's next week. Sorry. Yes, so next week we will be presenting at a national summit on AI in education. And one of the things that we realized, James Cantonwine and I, as we were kind of working on some other presentations for conferences, is we have a lot of knowledge in the Peninsula School District about AI that not all schools do, and not even all of our staff. And so really we needed to create a repository of all of kind of our knowledge, the things that we've done. So we will be releasing next week. It's not out there yet. You could actually go to that, but there's still some things missing. But a new website called psd401.ai. It'll be all about our journey with AI, all about the things we're doing, all about how other schools and school districts can utilize it, all about how our own staff can utilize AI in many different areas. We're publishing all of our presentations that we've given over the last couple of years, articles and research. We're doing blog posts about stories. We're also going to use this as an experimental playground on looking at different ways we can tell stories. So there are some companies that are starting to look at, not just writing a news story, but also having it be interactive, that you could have a voice conversation with the story, or you can have a chat with the story when you take all of the conversations that you've built into those stories. And so we're going to use this as kind of an experimental platform also for, how can AI help us tell the story of what we're doing in the Peninsula School District better. And so just a sneak peek at that so that you guys know that we will be releasing that next week. And I don't know that there's any other school districts in the country that have done this yet. So we think it'll be pretty cool and pretty highly regarded. So, yeah.
Oh,
sure.
Sorry.
This is absolutely incredible. This was this LLM analysis of the focus groups entirely AI generated, or did you go back and tweak it? Like, was it really all those? Like, I know that wasn't all the prompts, but was it?
That was most of the prompts.
I mean, this is incredible.
Yeah, I want to redo some of them because they were just straight out of my head. And I think that one of the things we learned when we were at Stanford last week is they were encouraging us to take what we think are good prompts, put it back into AI and have it tell us how to make it even better, and then use them again. And so the concept with meta prompting is what they're, yes. Well, so, I don't know about sentient, but helping you do what you do better. Yeah. And so, and I think that's the big focus is how can you do the things that you're doing and do them in a better way or in a different way that you've never had a chance to do before.
Well, because I feel like the power in this, and we've talked about this so much, and like how do you take the rich and more accurate and more reflective qualitative data that you get from conversations and you get from all of these things, but then be able to digest it and quantify it in a way that you can see the themes and the patterns and you can then act on it.
Yep.
And that is like literally you've done that right here. And that is amazing. That's really wow. Is this executive summary, is this like, where's this going?
We're going to see what the kids think first.
Okay.
Really it's our very first public attempt at trying this. And so, some of these things we're going to look at and go, yeah, those aren't feasible. This is AI assuming that we know, but some of them might give us good ideas and we want to get more feedback. So one of the common things when you talk about using AI is, how does a human use AI and then give it back to the humans to actually act on that? Mm-hmm. And so kind of that sandwich of humans on each side and AI in the middle to help you do the work. And so now we're trying to figure out, now that AI did some of this analysis for us, what can we have the humans go back and do and make change and drive, hopefully an increased sense of belonging in our kids.
Absolutely.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, I read the executive summary real quick. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I like how you were able to, like when I use it, I prompt it the same way and then do a peer review and then have it grade it, see what I can improve on and then feed it through multiple times to tweak it. Mm-hmm. So based off this executive summary is, because as you said, it's a good first step, especially since, as you well know, I've been critical of some of the other ways we assess a sense of belonging.
Sure.
This executive summary seems much better than what we're currently using, even though this is your first attempt. And so I'm really excited to see where this takes you. If this is the first round, to see where we go in the future.
Yeah, I think there's some possibilities. We're doing the focus groups in every building now. I think once we work out some of the specifics and make this reproducible to just give to the principals and say, hey, put your transcripts in. We've already worked out the prompts that and have it just do all of those things for you and come back with some of the feedback. I think there's some really cool possibilities there on a building specific level. This is more of a district level overview. But
Did the focus group seem pretty engaged? Did they see real time as this was happening that what they were?
They didn't really know that we told them that we were transcribing all the conversations. They didn't really put all of that together. I don't think they just had the conversations naturally, like you would, just sitting down and talking to kids about how they feel, what's going on at school. And so it was unobtrusive and it was just kind of there. And it allowed them to just continue to have natural conversations, and then we can go back afterwards and do a lot of work with it. And I'll be really excited to see what the kids think next week when we take it back to them and say, here's what it did out of what we did last week, or last month. So,
is the podcast AI generated as well? Just the voices and everything.
Yep.
Is it so human-like and fluid that I was curious if you had facilitators in. Oh yeah, no. Can you do it in the voice of?
It's
really cool.
I've asked for that.
Yeah, we're working on some ideas, but on that front. But this is a tool called Notebook LM from Google. I took the report that there's no personal information in it, so I just felt free to put that one in. Said generate me a podcast. It does that, and it's the two podcast hosts talking back and forth about the conversations we had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
Any other questions or from students? Questions, or did any of you participate in this? No. Okay. What do you think?
So I just wanted to point out, also next week, Chris and I have been invited by Andrew Coe. He is the AASA Innovation Officer for the nation, with a small group, and so we're going to be meeting with them with a lot of startup executives, Covexa, Learning Mate, Lumi, and Timely. I had to ask Michael Farmer at Colin Kaepernick will be there, and so he had to give me the background of that.
Oh.
But we
He's
will
now an
have-
AI startup founder.
Yeah. You didn't know?
Yeah.
No, I did, but
Okay.
I just had to verify what I thought.
Okay.
But I think having the opportunity to sit down with founders and startup executives and talk about what we're trying to do in school districts and around student voice, around scheduling, or around any of the things that we face, academic success, is really an opportunity. And so I just want to highlight the fact that most school districts that I talk with nationally are not anywhere near trying the things that our team is doing. The think tank and the executive team that I have and the people that have come on board are simply amazing, and they're willing to try something and fail, and that is what's going to actually really push education forward with all this new technology. So I just am so appreciative of all of the work and all of the work, everybody on the back, because the conversations, if you could be a fly on the wall, are just fascinating, and they're really trying to figure out really complex solutions to really hard problems. And so it's really an honor and a privilege to work with such a team. So we will be having our next superintendent student advisory, and I don't know why we haven't invited that really up to the principals to invite a cross section of students. But it might be an opportunity for us to rethink and have our student reps on there, because that would be amazing. But that will be on Monday.
Because they have engagement with students from around the state in a way that those other teams don't through the student rep network.
So we'll make that recommendation.
We'll figure something out, yeah.
All right.
Question about when you're standing in front of startup groups as the representative of education, are you taking to them a list of, this is what we've done, but God, I really wish we could do this, or I wish, so that they know how to build it out for schools specifically?
So Cress and I had a conversation with Andrew Coe a couple months ago, and he was like, hey, I had this idea, and I said, can I share my screen? And I showed him the things that we were already doing. He's like, that was our idea.
Oh.
And so,
of course it was.
So that's what
they're trying to monetize it.
Yeah, they just want to monetize it. We're doing it, and
Okay.
this was a project in partnership with Vanderbilt University that we were working on. And so, I think that's one of the things that where AI is right now, if we don't steer the ship on where we want it to be to match the education system that we want to build, we're going to let it tell us what it's going to, and I don't mean that literally, but we're going to end up letting the startup founders tell us what they think that we should be doing in education. So it's important to get out there in front and say, no, this is what we really need. This is the things that we're missing, and this is how we want to, design our school system to match that, instead of the other way around. It's people saying, oh, look at the cool AI thing we can do, and now you should change education to match that.
Were any of those people in attendance at Stanford in the belly of the beast down there?
No, but I am going back in the end of February. I've been invited again, and a lot of those people will show up for that event. Yeah.
It's a bit of a responsibility now, I feel, to be in front of the bow wave like this, to be guiding really the future of education for, I mean, not to be hyperbolic, but for the world. So this is the next thing, and we are in the front. So.
Well, and then in a weird way, where's Ashley? I mean, it goes to sort of leveraging the procurement process, right? And the purchasing power of districts to say, no, we don't want to just take a standard laptop off the shelf with all of the regular stuff and then try to stuff education into that. We want something from the ground up that supports learning in schools. Right?
Yep. Yeah. So last year, you'll remember we were chosen as one of 4 pilot districts in the country. Coastland and the Council of Great City Schools came out, and they have a maturity framework around AI implementation. And so much of the work is honestly Ashley and I, because it's procurement, it's legal, it's all of those pieces behind the scenes that you guys, nobody wants to see. It's the boring stuff that goes, it's like putting things on purchase orders to make sure that people tell us when generative AI is being used in their products, and like those kinds of little details that nobody thinks about. Those are the kind of things behind the scenes that you really have to build the foundation for. And that's the work that we do that,
Well, and the other great thing
doesn't make for a good presentation here, but.
Well, no, but you're building that familiarity and fluency with those things, not just with us and your staff, but with students.
Yeah.
Right? which
Yep.
is, I mean, that's really the key, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
amazing, Chris, wow.
All right, thanks.
Okay, next report is with Ashley, our CFO, and she's got our monthly budget update.
We can't tell all of our secrets. No, but I used my financial reporting software. Exactly, absolutely. Yeah, in all reality, very likely. Okay, so this is for the period ending with the calendar year, December 31st, 2024. So although we operate on fiscal year, there's a lot of pieces in the financial realm that also operate on calendar year. So we toggle between both. This first sheet that you're looking at is in regards to revenues. We're within a, or can you go up one, Jenny? Sorry. There you go, all the way to the top. You'll see the semicircles on the screen. There you go. So this one is revenues. So you're gonna see that we're within 1% of where we expected to be as far as budget goes. With all revenues except for federal revenues, our grant claims for federal revenues are more heavy towards the latter part of spring and into summer, so we expect for that percentage to be lower at this point in the year. Now you can go to the next slide, which is expenses, that green, all the way down to the next one. There we go. That green semicircle, we watch this to track and ensure that we're between 4% and 6% as far as our board goal for ending fund balance. Right now, we're tracking at 5.63%, so right under that 6% threshold. All of our other percentages are just within about 1% of where we would expect to be at this point of the year, so that's a solid outlook as far as expenses go. Next page is in regards to our current ending fund balance trend. This right here is exactly why we needed to do the work that we needed to do 2 years ago. That solid blue line is where we are trending this year. So think about that solid blue line. If we would not have right-sized, we would have been one of those other districts that's currently hitting the papers because we cannot pay our bills. But instead, we are in a solid position. We are within board goal for ending fund balance. And yes, we're lower than we have been in the 3 prior years, but that we would expect that. ESSER money is gone, along with a lot of those other categorical grants that went along with ESSER. So I wouldn't expect for us to stay at that high 3-year tenure. We'd expect for us to drop down. But even with that, you can see where we had budgeted. That's, you see 2 numbers sort of stacked on top of each other right there on the right-hand side. It means that we're trending to be exactly where we had budgeted. Now, one of the caveats, so January is the true-up month for the state when it comes to apportionment, and taking our budgeted figures and running us through the model for actual, and then they give us basically their the true-up value if you increased in enrollment. And so we're waiting for January apportionment to hit. Then at that point, once I have January apportionment and I know exactly where our increases are, we can go back into the software and account for those increases. And then at that point, we should see a bit of capacity built into this. And I'm gonna show you where you're going to end up seeing it on another slide. But so although the blue line is down, nothing to worry about. This is what we would expect at this point. So no concerns there. Okay, next is a more detailed slide in regards to revenues and expenditures and where the dollars are going. You can see prior year to date is the first set of boxes versus where we are currently. So you can see that we've spent more than what we have received. Again, this would be an expectation. We just bargained 5 contracts over the summer. And so we wouldn't expect for our expenses to be exactly where they were in prior year. But we plan for it accordingly with fund balance going into this year. So again, even though we see dips, they're to be expected and keeps us within the board goal range for ending fund balance. If we can go to the last one, and I know for anyone looking at this, you're not going to be able to read those numbers. Okay, so If you're online and you pull this document up, you can zoom in and you can actually see what the values are. But one of the things that I wanted to throw out there in the revenue side towards the top, you're going to see an area that's in red that's approximately $1.5 million. And that's for reduced apportionment as of right now because we have not received our true up yet. Okay, so when we receive those revenues, we're going to see that area just sort of go black. It, in all reality, is going to be about $500,000 in the positive. But that's, so even though we're anticipating approximately $2 million in revenues for increased enrollment, I've already built capacity in for a chunk of that. So we should see ending fund balance increase by about $500,000, but not the full value because we've already anticipated a chunk of that. Okay, so that's what I have in regards to December year end, but I do have more information regarding this legislative session that I wanted to get into, unless you guys have any questions or comments in regards to what I presented so far. Okay, legislative session. Okay, so overall, I just wanted to hit on some high priority items because I know that you guys are going to be either lobbying or testifying on behalf of specific bills coming up. So as a state, a good chunk of the school districts got together, and whether or not it was with WASBO, so the business officials, or WASA, or superintendent's group, WASDA, they came up with a sort of priority list of items that they want focused on. One of those areas is in regards to MSOCs, special education, and transportation. So those three areas and costs districts incurred that aren't necessarily fully funded by the state. Transportation for us, we've done a lot of work here within the last few years in order to sort of right size that transportation bleed of costs that we were seeing, bringing ourselves from the point where we were about $1.5 million in the red to the point where we're basically break even. But when we're lobbying or talking about that piece of transportation, it's very important to note that although, yes, we are able to utilize state funding to fund our transportation, the way we've had to do that is by having less routes, less drivers on the road, having more kids on buses, and longer bus rides, okay? So that's what the state is telling us that they're paying for, but there are impacts to that. And those impacts are something that we should be discussing because it's not just that financial funding piece, but if we truly are going to live within the means of what the state has stated, and they do not fully fund us the way that we need to be funded, we will have issues because of that. So yes, we've done the hard work so that we're not 1.5 million in the red on that side, because to be fiscally responsible, you can't run a department like that because it takes from other sources then. But on the other side, then you have that fallout from just the ridership and long rides, all of that. So that needs to be taken into consideration when we're talking transportation. As far as general MSOCs go, over the last 5 years, we've been underfunded by just under $47 million. So just MSOC. Okay, that's not transportation, that's not special education. Over the last 5 years, transportation, we've been underfunded by 2.7. But in just MSOC, and we're talking, that's material, supplies, operating costs, so overhead. It can be your curriculum, it can be your technology, it can be insurance, liability insurance. So not insurance that we pay for employees, but insurance that the district has to maintain for being an operating entity. $47 million in 5 years. So that $47 million, if we did not have, let's say, local levy to pay for it, we would not have a district, but we are fully funded according to the state. So that becomes problematic. Specific to MSOCs, when we're talking utilities and insurance, those are two pieces that regularly come out as underfunded. Our costs over the last 3 years, as far as our monthly costs that are unfunded, have doubled. Okay, so where we were 3 years ago versus 2 years ago versus this year, we are approaching nearly $85,000 a month unfunded. And this is just to keep lights on, gas in buildings that have gas, and pay our liability insurance. Our liability insurance alone increased by $500,000 this year in one single year.
So is that typical with other districts, or is that Peninsula?
So it depends what you determine typical is. The reinsurance market across the state and across the nation and in all reality globally has significantly increased. So insurance companies are they're incurring additional operating expenses as well, and then that ends up getting passed on. The way that they determine what we're going to be paying is through a mod factor piece based upon what our losses are versus other district losses are. Our loss factor isn't significantly high, but when you're in a pool and you have other districts that are, you end up paying a portion of that as well. What I can say is that a lot of districts were sort of caught off guard and were not happy with double-digit increases in liability insurance, and it has caused some districts to need to lay off additional staff in order to cover their last-minute increases. We don't find out until the budget's already being drafted what our costs are going to be for that upcoming school year. So ultimately, whatever they give us is what we have to pay. And so we're sort of stuck with that. So this last year we did see $500,000 increase, meaning we're paying just under $3 million alone for liability insurance. And we're only funded at a fraction of that. So that's your MSOC piece. Special education, I mean, I understand that the state has done some work to bridge the underfunding gap in special education. But over the last 5 years, we've still been underfunded by just under $20.5 million in special education. Huh? Yeah, correct. And so with some of the changes that they have made recently, in last school year, we were underfunded by about $4.7 million. The school year prior to last. Last school year alone, we cut it in half. And we cut it down to $2.6 million of underfunding or unfunded mandates on the special education side. Now, that isn't just simply the state coming out and giving us additional money. That has been robust work within, John's departments with Jana in regards to reevaluating service models. As well as really hitting those safety net applications hard to ensure that we can get as much money from the federal government to offset the state underfunding. But again, those are really hard to budget for because you don't necessarily know whether or not you're getting the funding until after the fiscal year has closed. So we get that funding in September for the prior school year. So relying on that and budgeting on it as if it's going to happen when, again, it's the federal government, you never know, is not good business practice. But as you can see, they have bridged a considerable amount of that gap in this last year. But still being 2.6 million, we're having to funnel from other sources. With that being said, you're going to see multiple SPED bills being heard and on the floor to try to decrease or eliminate some of this underfunding. With that said, none of the bills are going to actually erase $2.6 million of our underfunding amongst what other districts are seeing. What the bills, regardless of which one you're looking at, what the bills are doing, like Senate Bill 5263, what they're doing is they're aiming to drop the multiplier that a high-need special education student would need to hit before they qualify for that additional federal safety net funding. It used to be tiered, and it was tiered based upon the inclusion of that student in gen ed classes. So if they spent 80% or more of the school year in a gen ed class, they fund you at a higher percentage. But if they're in a self-contained classroom, let's say they have a full-time nurse, they have diapering needs, they have feeding needs, you're not going to be able to get that student into the class 80+% of the time into a gen ed class. Well, when you can't get them into that class, they give you less funding, even though the student there's going to be higher costs associated with it.
So Ashley, in terms of that, tomorrow when we testify, there's a small group of us. We are going to advocate for the single multiplier.
Correct.
We're also going to advocate for the quarter distribution.
Okay.
Okay. So that we file the paperwork first, and then throughout the time, you'll get a little bit of money every quarter.
Yeah, they prorate you each
Right.
quarter. Now, there are, and what I would be interested to see, because I read the bill and they don't necessarily talk about it. So ultimately, what they're stating is that if you have a high need student, let's say we have an out-of-state placement in Kansas, and it's costing us $500,000 a year. If they qualified last year and we do some initial paperwork for them, they'll start paying us on that high needs placement each quarter, and we'll get a chunk of that money, $125,000. Now the issue is, and what I could see as a potential problem, is if as the rules are written regarding safety net and that safety net application, if you don't dot an I or cross a T, they deny that student. It's not like you get a redo. So in those situations where they've already paid us, what are they doing? Are they coming back and taking the money back, or are they going to work with you on that student's?
I think we'll have to talk about
Exactly.
that as we get going, because we talked about smaller school districts can't upfront
No.
$1 million out of their budget. And
No.
so trying to be equitable around that, and
Yeah.
also eliminating the cap.
Exactly.
So those are the three pieces, preferably SB 5263 over 5307.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. We want 5263 because 5263, it gives us a 1.5 times multiplier. So the second you have a student
Right.
that their costs are 1.5 times more than a gen ed student without an IEP, now we can claim them on safety net. It does not matter what percentage of the school year they're spending in a gen ed classroom or not. It doesn't matter whether or not you have more than 1,000 students in your district or less than 1,000 students in your district. It's just equal across the board.
How can we advocate for them to become more realistic with the safety net? Because it's really ridiculous how they're doing it right now.
That's at the federal government level. And so I understand that there's a certain limitations as far as what the state can do in order to change those expectations. One of the things that would help local school districts, though, is you spend significant months putting together this application. It takes a lot of work from multiple departments. You know, the business department is involved, obviously the SPED department's involved, but in addition to that, you also have individual buildings involved as well. If there was a way to even for someone at the state level to do cross-checks against information while we're going through the process versus, okay, it's due, you submit it, and now you stand back and you're like, oh, I hope I got it, or I hope we didn't use the wrong word within the IEP, that they don't like this word so they can deny the student. I've had individuals deny costs because the location code in our account code string was tied to the ESC and wasn't tied to a specific building. So although that student did have full-time nursing costs, that individual was a contracted employee, was not one of our W-2 employees. Therefore, we had tied them to the ESC and they denied it because of that. So it's not that the costs don't exist.
Yep.
They weren't specifically tied to that building, so they denied it because of that. And so then we change our accounting structure in order to work through that for the following year, but there's no take-backs after the fact.
Might be an interesting opportunity for AI to serve as a special ed federal report, analyst. But I mean, maybe there's some workarounds or some pieces that we could explore that might be an interesting.
We have to be careful with IEP data and student names, but I'm sure that there's a way to put in scenarios to have them cross-check that doesn't include those key pieces of information. I will say that Jana and her team are really good. And so I haven't necessarily always worked with teams that were that detail-oriented when it comes to this application. So the fact that we can even secure up to $2 million in federal funding to offset some of these is huge. So that's been real positive, but yes, I definitely concur 5263 over 5307. 5307 also includes a bunch of extra, it still has your different tiers and all of that. It's additional work that's really unnecessary. One of the other key pieces that I wanted to note, although it would still exist in both of the bills, but it's very important for transparency purposes when it comes to special education funding. A lot of individuals will say, okay, well, just change your guys' model and how you're providing services. Or even though the state says do X, Y, Z, just do this because it's a cheaper alternative. The law states differences in costs attributable to district philosophy, service delivery choice, or accounting practices are not legitimate basis for safety net awards, meaning you do it their way or you don't get the funding. And they still have that in both of the documents. So ultimately, it's not necessarily about what Peninsula School District wants to do, it's whether or not we've met the requirements of both the state and federal government in order to secure those funds. Okay, that's what I have as far as a legislative update. Did you guys have any questions? Perfect.
Preston, you're testifying on the 5263 tomorrow, but not.
I'm testifying on all 4 bills.
Oh, you are still going to testify 5407, so what are you saying on that?
We will say what we like and what we would like to change on each one.
So we're still registered, we're pro, but with some with some qualifiers, okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, that takes us to comments for the community on agenda items, and I don't have any on agenda items, so we will roll on to our consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote on approving the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve, excuse me, I move to approve the consent agenda, sorry.
And I'll second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Chuck to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried and the consent agenda has been approved. Okay, our discussion and action items for the evening. If you'll remember, a couple of you were gone earlier this month, so we decided to table some of the passage of policies and such until we were all here. So we'll go through those tonight. Some of them are approving second reads, and then some of them are retirements. And I think we have a couple first reads. So item 8.1 is the approval of the second reading of policy 5125. This is going to be a renumbering to 5260 related to personnel records. Is there any discussion on the approval of the second read, which is approval of the policy itself, 5125 to 5260? Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 5125 to 5260 personnel records?
Move to approve with the agenda.
You can say 8.1 if you want to. I think
Okay,
that
yeah,
would work.
agenda item 8.1.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori to approve item 8.1, second reading of policy 5125, renumbered to 5260 on personnel records. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. The second reading of policy 5125 to 5260 is approved. Item 8.2, this is the approval of the retirement of policy 3121, compulsory attendance. Is there any discussion on the approval of the retirement of policy 3121? Is there a motion to approve the retirement of policy 3121?
I move we approve item 8.2.
Is there a second? It's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve the retirement of policy 3121 on compulsory attendance. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the retirement of policy 3121 has been approved. Item 8.3 is the approval of the second reading of policy 3122, excused and unexcused absences. Is there any discussion on the approval of the second reading of policy 3122, excused and unexcused absences? Is there a motion to approve item 8.3?
I'll make a motion to approve 8.3.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried, and the second reading of policy 3122 on excused and unexcused absences has been approved. Item 8.4, approval of the retirement of policy 3445 on sexual harassment, the student policy. Is there any discussion on the approval of the retirement of policy 3445? Is there a motion to approve the retirement of policy 3445, sexual harassment student policy?
So moved, so moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve, to approve the retirement of policy 3445. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried and the retirement of policy 3445, sexual harassment, has been approved. And I think I just want to point out that a lot of these that are being retired are because they've been replaced by something else. Item 8.5, approval of the second reading of policy 5505 to 5010, non-discrimination and affirmative action. Is there any discussion on the approval of the second reading of policy 5505, renumbered to 5010, non-discrimination and affirmative action? Is there a motion to approve the second reading of this policy or item 8.5?
I'll move to approve agenda item 8.5.
Okay, it's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori to approve the second reading of policy 5505, renumbered to 5010 on non-discrimination and affirmative action. Motion, did we vote? Sorry, I lost myself. No. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now the motion is carried. Second reading of policy 5505 to 5010, non-discrimination and affirmative action has been approved. Item 8.6 is the approval of the second reading of policy 5510 to 5251, conflicts of interest. Is there any discussion on this approval? Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 5510, renumbered to 5251, conflicts of interest?
I'll move to approve 8.6.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Lori and seconded by Chuck. To approve policy, second reading of policy 5510 to 5251. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried, and the second reading of policy 5510 to 5251, conflicts of interest, has been approved. Item 8.7, this is just a review of the first reading of policy 5510 related to retirement programs. Is there any discussion on the review of this policy? Okay, so we're not taking action on that. Item 8.8 is the approval of the second reading of policy 5600, renumbered to 5315, related to garnishment and personal credit problems. Is there any discussion on the approval of the second read of policy 5600, renumbered to 5315? Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 5600 to 5315?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by David and seconded by Chuck to approve the second read of policy 5600, renumbered to 5315, garnishment and personal credit problems. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried. The second reading of policy 5600, renumbered to 5315, garnishment and personal credit problems, has been approved. And finally, item 8.9. The review of the first reading of policy 5407. Again, this is just a first read, so no action, but is there any discussion on the review of the first reading of policy 5407 related to military leaves? Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. As you know, we've been working through our policy manual, so we're getting through the 5,000 series. I think we're just about there. Item 9 for the evening is comments from the community. This is on non-agenda items. So most of you are familiar with how we do it. I will call your name off of this list. Please come to the podium. You will state your name, first and last name. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll display a timer for you. If for whatever reason you can't get through your comments in 3 minutes, you are always welcome to submit them to the board by email, and they will be part of the public record as well. So first up this evening, we have Chris Doherty.
Good evening. My name is Chris Doherty, and I'm the parent of 2 students in PSD. With Black History Month approaching, I hope the district will take the opportunity to recognize and highlight the significant contributions that Black figures have made to American history. While we now have an administration that seeks to dismiss the importance of race and promote a quote-unquote colorblind society, it's important to recognize that BIPOC students and communities do not seek a colorblind nation. This only perpetuates racism in our schools and communities, furthering a lack of understanding and appreciation for diversity. I strongly believe racial and LGBTQ slurs will rise exponentially in the upcoming weeks, and our community will be looking to the district to ensure the protection of our marginalized students and the strict enforcement of the zero tolerance policy. I also anticipate an increase in calls for the censorship of Black or Native history, LGBTQ books and discussions, and the use of preferred pronouns in schools. In the face of this harmful rhetoric, our community will be looking to the district to stand firm and support our diverse students. Students will only feel protected through tangible actions, not just assurances. It is essential that the district follows through on its commitment to safeguarding all students by actively enforcing policies and fostering an inclusive environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Ann Junod.
My comments are directed to the parents and community stakeholders in the room and online, including the school board. Recently, the school board has made an unusual change to the way that they are receiving public comments. Up until a few months ago, Peninsula School District was in line with peer districts in our region by soliciting all public comments near the beginning of board meetings. Now public comments are received at different times in the board meetings according to the topic of comment. Comments that are directly related to the board's agenda are now heard near the beginning of the board meetings, but comments related to educational and school district matters that are not explicitly addressed in the board's agenda are now heard now at the end of the board meetings. This is a problem for parents and community stakeholders for a few reasons. First, it is out of line with our peer districts. North Kitsap, South Kitsap, and Tacoma school districts hear all public comments near the beginning of the school board meetings, just like Peninsula used to. This provides a chance for the board to modify their agenda and respond to public comments if they wish, which is important to demonstrate that the board is concerned with the concerns of parents and voters. It also allows for more working families to attend board meetings, share their comments, and leave to take care of family matters if they need to, which was previously common. Now, if a working parent or community member wants to communicate to the board in this public forum, the primary public forum for doing so, about an educational or school district matter that the board has not considered in their agenda, they have to arrive before 6 p.m. to sign up and then wait for what can and has been multiple hours until the end of the meeting to speak. Tonight, for example, I arrived at 5:45 p.m. to sign up to speak, and it is now 2 hours later. This, as the board surely knows, is unrealistic for most working families. Rationale for this change has not been communicated, so it is unclear if the goal of this change is to induce a chilling effect on public comments about matters of public concern that the board does not address in their agenda. But whatever the goal, the outcome is that the message communicated to working parents and community members is that the board is not interested in hearing from them. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Diane Nelson.
Hello. Oh, excuse me. I'm recovering from a throat thing too. My name is Diane Nelson, and thank you, School Board, for letting us speak to you. Yesterday, I got to really enjoy watching the inaugural ceremonies, and I hope that you got to watch them too and take some time out of your day to do so. And this morning, I was curious to find that a complete executive orders of some of the things I'd been interested in, to read all of it to see what it really said instead of just the one sentence they said. So I looked up the one that was called Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism, and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government, because I wanted to know what they were saying in that. So I read through all of the lengthy thing, and a lot of what was in there is stuff that I've spoken at this school board before. But I wanted to add something that I haven't said. But before I do, I want to just briefly state shortly what I've said before, that the There's two biological sexes, scientifically proven, and those two biological sexes are male and female. Now, this is not to be against someone that says they're gay or lesbian, but this is for the protection of our children, not to lead them to the path of transgender. This is the point of view I'm coming from, because I am about keeping kids safe. And in the past, I've shared with you some really horrendous things that have happened when biological males who identify as women have been allowed in girls' sports or in girls' locker room. And we've heard stories from Loudoun County. We've seen things at the Olympics. Didn't have anything to do with school, but it is happening in schools too. And I think that we just need to protect our students from that. And this executive order does do that. And in the past, I've also shared with you things about the case study in the United Kingdom, the studies in the Netherlands, the studies in the Switzerland, that are not, they're proving that the gender-affirming care is not helping students, and mutilating their bodies is not helping them, it's hurting them. And I've asked that we would focus on compassionate care instead of teaching false gender ideologies. Tonight, I wanted to add a couple of things in as I was thinking about history, because the history of our country, hearing this presidential executive order, the history of our country is founded on firm beliefs of Judeo-Christian values. Our Constitution, our three branches of government, all of those are founded upon those values and beliefs. And we need to stand up for truth in belief, and we can't just be changing norms in society for false gender ideologies without hurting our children. So I'm asking you again to remove the false gender ideologies from the curriculum.
And next we have Carol Rivera.
Hi there, Carol Rivera, here as Peninsula Education Association President. First off, I just wanted to close out the month by just acknowledging the work that the school board does to support our students and staff. So it's nice to see the students and other people share that with you. I do know that your job and all of our jobs is very challenging to make sure that we can hear differing opinions, but also support what is best for students. I did want to talk about something different today, which is just ties in with the technology presentation that both Mel and Chris created. It was really great to see the spectrum of our students, right, and the knowledge from the time they are small to where they are. And as a science teacher, a CTE teacher in technology, I think that it's really important to recognize that. Things do change, but I do also share a desire for our work to be sustainable and also to adapt and move. And so one of the things that has kind of come to my attention is I have led teams in the district and helped establish the robotics program at the middle school, which is clearly not there, but there are other ways that students are receiving robotics instruction through the TSA clubs, and those are VEX products. I myself and students at Harbor Ridge participated in the MATE ROV competition, which works and celebrates marine technology. So I just wanted to make sure that as you are navigating the legislative priorities, that the innovation and peace isn't limited to one organization. And so I think that we need to assess what is there and make sure. So in House Bill 1198, which is the appropriations under Section 522, there is a section on grants and pass-through of funding. One of those is to support marine sciences, aeronautics, and also robotics and STEM. So one of the things as a 25-year volunteer that supports the World Championship MATE ROV competition is that marine science and aero science with the start of the Aviation Academy, we need to make sure that the funding and grants that are available to educators like Mr. Wolgemuth and other people who pay out of their pocket, are considered. And so in the grant section, it mentions one nonprofit that was mentioned tonight that our students had the opportunity to participate in. I would like to make sure that you know that both MATE and VEX are also nonprofits, and I would ask that you ask why one nonprofit in robotics and innovation is listed instead of all nonprofits that could support the programs that are already existed in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes comments from the community on non-agenda items for this evening, and that takes us to item 10, which is our superintendent's report.
All right, well, thank you very much. It was really a fun night. It was fun to see the scope and the variance from elementary to high school. So thank you, staff, for bringing those forward. Yesterday, I had an opportunity with several of you to attend the Martin Luther King Assembly at the Methodist Church. Thank you so much for the invitation, and really it was a beautiful tribute. So it was really a nice afternoon. My husband had the opportunity to go as well. So anytime that we can attend something together is really, really a good thing. This weekend, there were a lot of things this weekend. So the NJROTC Brain Blast, we had 3 teams that on Saturday that participated, and one of our teams is moving on. So the specifics around that and where they are going, I think is still up in the air. I think they still have one more competition, but they have an opportunity to go to the East Coast. So that's pretty amazing. And the students, there were schools from all over. There were schools from Oregon, and it was really, really great to see. It was a little different than Knowledge Bowl because the information was in big, thick packets. And Natalie and I sat next to each other, and I knew very few things. I know that's surprising. But there were things that I did not know about flags. There were so many things about flags I did not know. On Saturday as well, we had the Unified Sports. Gig Harbor High School hosted a variety of different teams, and I'm sorry I just missed it, came in at the very end, but we had many of our staff were there. Next Saturday will be at Fife High School, and so another opportunity. Tonight we had Pack the Stands at PHS, which is going on right now, and that is unified as well. And so one thing to note, I think many of us were so pleased when we walked into Gig Harbor High School. The unified students have their big pictures on the side, just like all of the rest of all of the athletes. So that was really great to see. I had an opportunity last week. We started our Thriving Generation launch, which is a community effort to really look at issues throughout the community and come up with solutions together. And so I want to thank John Helwick for spearheading that at Pioneer. This Friday, we have our 3rd Shark Tank 3D print and design competition. So the 5th graders, they are quite advanced. There are videos, and they have to have a 3D model of that, so I look forward to being a judge. I'm always in awe that 5th graders can be so complex. Last Friday, Gig Harbor and Lincoln High School students participated in a restorative circle. This in-person gathering fostered understanding and healing through powerful dialogue. Students went over to Lincoln High School and were hosted. I am incredibly proud of our students for their courage and openness in these challenging discussions. Their willingness to participate demonstrates the strength that emerges when we address difficult issues together. I also want to acknowledge the exceptional facilitation provided by Lincoln High School's Mr. McLemore and Mr. Chambers, and the invaluable collaboration of Gig Harbor High School's Miss Principal Suter and our District Athletic Director, Miss Malik. As superintendent, I am committed to continuing this vital restorative work. We will build upon these meaningful conversations to foster a more connected and harmonious community. And right now, I believe that they are playing. This is an ongoing journey, and we remain dedicated to cultivating a culture of respect and understanding within our district and extended to all of our neighbors and our friends. Again, we deeply appreciate the incredible leadership of this board, your steadfast commitment to supporting students, staff, and families is the foundation of our shared achievements. And just as a note, you are not paid for this. This is a dedication of heart and time and energy away from your family, and I think that that cannot be underscored. It is very important for me to be able to do my work with our staff on behalf of children, and so thank you for your hard work. Due to high demand, additional training dates for the youth mental health first aid have been added. These sessions equip educators and community members with the tools to support students' mental health and well-being, so please be looking for that. I've had the opportunity to visit and read at many of our elementary schools. Not all, I don't think I'm 100% yet, right, Jenny? But one of the really fun, and some of you might talk about it, I think I won't steal your thunder, but at Purdy, they have the one book, one school, the Wild Robot, and that was really fun. All the students got. And what a great theme, Wild Robot. Who doesn't love that? And lastly, I just want to thank the board for allowing me to serve on AASA, which is the School Superintendent Association. I am one of the 2 Region 1, so I represent all of the West Coast. I had the opportunity to really network with other superintendents from across the country. Every time I'm there, we are more common than not, depending on, it doesn't matter what state we're from, it doesn't matter what region. It really doesn't matter if we're urban, large, or small, rural. Really having an opportunity to have some partnerships that will be important in our growth as we look forward to looking at whether we're talking about facilities or we're talking about mathematics curriculum. So thank you for that. We shared best practices. We discussed the challenges and explored innovative solutions to enhance student success. So thank you for the opportunity to serve on that, and really thank you for the opportunity and the ability for us to leverage what we're learning with other people around the nation. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. All right.
I know it was a little long.
No, all good things though. I appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Oh. Sorry, I have one
Go
more.
back.
I was given the green light. Sorry, Chris. I scratched it out because I didn't think. This is big news that we didn't know that we could share yet, but I'm going to go ahead. I got the green light. We are excited to share that Director Chuck West and Director David Olson will represent the Peninsula School District in Washington, D.C. to accept the CDE/NSBA, it's National School Board Association, Innovative Technology Integration Award on behalf of the district. This prestigious recognition highlights the district's exceptional commitment to integrating technology into education. This is a great example of how this district continues to prioritize innovation, community engagement, and student success in every initiative. And my understanding is that there are 3 national awards, and we are receiving for our size school district the national award for this innovative technology integration. So Chuck and David, thank you so much for representing us well, and hopefully it won't be super cold.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's so cool. And we approved our Special Olympics team to be in Washington, D.C. at the same time. So maybe you guys can pair up. All right, thank you, Kristen. Item 11 is board discussion and comments. So who wants to start tonight? Don't make me call it. Go ahead.
I'll start. Okay. Just two things real quick. The special education parent group had another parent education night last week, and just kind of remind folks that that's every month. Open to all families, no RSVP required, and they are, and also they are recorded, and the presentations are available online if you aren't able to make it. So the one that is coming up next month on the 11th of February, and they're going to be talking about IEPs versus 5-4 plans. So it's a lot of these kind of large-scale topics that sometimes can be very daunting and confusing within the world of special education. I think, well, last week they talked about, it was about mental health and behavioral supports that are available in the district. So just encouraging everyone to know that this is a tremendous resource that most districts do not have, that is out there on a monthly basis, and we have our amazing staff showing up with our parent volunteers to provide these overviews. And if you can't make it in person, they are available online. Agendas are online, or the presentation and the slide deck are all online.
Are they archived?
Yeah, they're all archived. Yeah, actually, we could put the link maybe, so you can go through all the past months, and they're right there. And then, as one of the new legislative representatives, we got to go to the legislative conference. I won't belabor it, so I'm sure we all have a couple 2 cents to take away from it. But I was really heartened to hear Senator Wellman, who's the head of the Senate K-12 committee, say that this is the first time that they have seen such clarity and a unified voice from school board directors, from superintendents, and from business directors around what are the most pressing needs in education. And they're exactly the 3 topics. Ashley, thank you for giving that overview on them, because I think at a time where it seems like there's so many things coming from every direction all at once, to be able to be clear and focused on where is our highest and greatest needs. So if we can tackle these and stay focused, it will deliver the biggest impacts and keep dollars and resources in classrooms for kids. I think that is just was a really powerful thing for me to hear at this point, because last week was the first week of the session, and it was like, head is spinning, how fast and furious everything comes. Like, how can there already be 3,000 bills pre-filed? It's like, you know what? We know what the priorities are from our experience, and just keep the focus, keep that. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I feel like I'm only learning a fraction of what's actually happening, but talk to me in, well, it's not 105 days now, what is it, 98 days left? And we'll see what we get. So, yeah, that's it. All right.
Well, one thing I didn't hear mentioned, we did have our school retreat today. So it's nice to have our school board retreat today, this afternoon, to talk about where we want to see our school district go in the future. So it's nice to be participating in that. Last Friday, several of us, Kristen and staff, got to go to the Peninsula High School, Gig Harbor High School boys and girls basketball games. I went to the girls at Peninsula High School. Sorry, Gig Harbor High School, the girls did their best up until halftime. Second half, Peninsula blew you away, but it was a good sportsmanship, and it's always fun to watch the competition between our 2 high schools. I've been on the legislative committee, or legislative rep now, for 12 years, or I'm in my 12th year. So, but this was the first time that we didn't go to Olympia, which used to be called a Day on the Hill. And legislative rep committee meetings at WASDA or at the WASDA conference tend to be a lot of platitudes and flowery words. But this year we didn't go to Olympia. They decided to do it as a conference, and I know y'all know that because you were there, but for the members of the room or the people watching. So it's the first time they brought WASDA, WASBO, and WASBO is the business officers like Ashley and WASA, school superintendents, and brought all of us in together. First, I was a little bit skeptical. I didn't know why they were doing it, because it was different, right? But when we go to Olympia in the past, the Sunday afternoon, we sit in a big room, and people come in, give a little spiel, talk a little platitude, and then the day after, on Monday, which is typically the second week of session, and people are running around with their heads cut off, trying to get time with our state legislators during that time can be challenging. Maybe a 3-minute sidebar on the wing, and so we don't really benefit really that much. We're fortunate that members of the school board know our 3 state legislators, so that's helpful. This time, we were able to go to breakout sessions, and each of us went to different ones, which allowed us to divide and conquer. We had big filled rooms with hundreds and hundreds of people, and I appreciate that Senator Wellman came and State Representative Santos came. I disagree with some of the things they've done in the years, but I do appreciate that they were there. Superintendent Reichdahl did not show up. I was very disappointed in that, and our governor didn't show up. And when we go on Day on the Hill, both those individuals show up and take the time to come and talk to us about where the priorities are for the next year. They did not do that, so that was disappointing. But the thing that I appreciated this time different was that having, as Jennifer mentioned, all three organizations there together in some of the breakout sessions, that the people that were leading those conversations, I won't name them, but I already talked about them in our retreat, but they were honest about where our state funding has gone in the last 10 years, and especially since McCleary, where our state funding has just gone in a wrong direction, and a priority really has not been placed on public education, especially MSOC, special education, and transportation. And then one of the breakout sessions I went to was on the history of funding public schools, which for me was sort of a, I already knew most of that, but it was still a nice refresher. But we know that the best way to fix it is to completely redo the prototypical funding model because it's broken, and to completely tear down and rebuild the STARS transportation funding model because it's broken. But what they said is when they've been talking, preparing for this legislative session, is they don't want to tackle those this legislative session. They're hoping that the state legislature will step up to the plate this time and fund those big three. They are encouraging us, as WASDA always does, to focus on your big three. So as a representative, we can do that. I don't know if members of the community know, but you can go on, read other bills, and log in and vote pro or con on other bills, which I voted con on some this morning, but tonight when I get home, I'll be logging in to vote pro as an individual on those same big three. But I'm hopefully optimistic that Senator Wellman and Representative Santos will take that message back from the three groups and really push that message that we need full funding. And one of the questions we asked Senator Wellman is that how, unlike McCleary, 2010, 2015, that they did not build guardrails into that legislation, so the majority of that money did not end up where it was supposed to go, how we can put guardrails on this money to make sure it actually goes to MSOC, special ed and transportation. Senator Wellman said she'll do her best on that. Fortunately, she couldn't promise that, but she got the message loud and clear. And I think the last thing Representative Santos heard was that no more unfunded mandates. So sending legislation or telling us to do stuff, whether it's in the classroom or somewhere else, and they don't pay the funding to do it, it really puts the onus on school boards and school districts, and we know many across the state are struggling right now. So hopefully the message that you send tomorrow, and members of the community can log in and vote pro on these. Hopefully we'll get positive results this year. So thank you.
Just a couple of things. I also was I had a chance to go to the boys' games for the rivalry last week, and that was really a treat. It was fun to see the gyms crowded and good sportsmanship and great game. The boys' game was very close, exciting game till the very end. So H2O had a fantastic performance at halftime, and it was just great to be there. The band, all of it. It's always fun to watch basketball. Sorry we didn't not going to make it to the games tonight. I was hoping to get there, but I also just wanted to comment that, when we talking about the retreat today, a few years ago we had several retreats and meetings to put together the strategic plan, and one of the goals that we thought was important was innovation. And it's so cool tonight to see, because saying you want to be one of the most innovative districts in the world or in the country or whatever we said, it's an easy thing to say, but it's a very daunting goal in reality, because it requires it requires, in addition to funding and all those pieces, it requires the right people in the right roles to both have the ideas, but to lead and to teach, and then, you know, to just empower the students to really do whatever it is they can do with the technology that's available. So tonight was awesome on more than one level, because we had, you know, an incredible teacher with students, so you could see just right firsthand what innovative technology can allow students to do and learn, which was, I thought, mind-blowing, what those kids are doing with photos and all of those things. And then just to see what Chris and your department have been able to accomplish, and just to see that we've really, no thanks to really us, but by dreaming big and putting that in the strategic plan, it's been cool to see how, you know, how far we've come. Just a really short period of time. So I'm just really impressed by all of you all and the work you do. And also encouraged by what you shared. It sounds like there was some great meeting went on Friday, and with some, I think, a really important first step on an ongoing journey toward good conversations between Lincoln and Gig Harbor, and so that's very encouraging. Thanks.
Okay, I'll keep it short. Off my mic spot. I was ill the last time I was here, so I didn't get to say congratulations to Gig Harbor High School for the play that I attended. Frozen, and yeah, it was, and Scrooge. Yeah, and so it was great. I really enjoyed that. I'm always honored to represent the school district. We're going to Washington, D.C. to accept the award, but we're just the figurehead. It's all of you up and down that really make things happen. All the teachers in the classrooms, all the staff, all the parents that support, and of course the students. And as a board, we may not be there teaching this stuff, but we support you. Anything we can do to help you guys along, we're there for you. This is a time of change in our country. Things are polarized, as they have been, it seems, for too long. It's a time where we need to heal. It's a time where we need to come together and recognize commonalities that we have as people and work towards healing. Let's leave it at that.
I will keep mine short. I feel like each of you have touched on an area that I wanted to mention. Thank you all for the retreat today. One thing that stood out to me is looking back, when we do our board self-assessment, we get years and years of data on where the board thinks they are, really, and it's about, are we on the same page, or do we think the same things about the work that we're doing? And so, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, the board was all over the map and in disagreement, and over the last few years, it's been really rewarding for me to be a part of this team and to see us grow more towards, I think, the same goals and at least be of the same mindset, and having the strategic plan in place, and you know, pausing on all the churn of leadership. Just to Lori's point, if the board is doing their job the right way and focused on the right things, and superintendent is doing the same and puts in a rock star team like we have, I think that's why we see all of these wonderful things happening for our students. And then we can focus on student outcomes, not student output. So I'm reading a book now about what makes a board successful, and we're focused on outcomes in your experience and not your output. We want you guys to thrive, and we want you to do all the fun things that you talk about, and we want to make sure that we remove any of those barriers. At the same time, we understand that we are responsible for your education, and we know kids will make mistakes, and when they do and they own up to it, it's really rewarding. And to see parents come alongside school district and students and learn together about how to be better, it's really exactly what's supposed to happen. So thanks to everyone who's been a part of that process in the life of a kid for any situation, because it matters. And a lot of work to do legislatively with the testifying. It moves really fast. Students, I sent you a chat in your, I don't know if you got it, there is a student rep Instagram page that was started. I don't know if any of you have found it, but if there's anything that they're talking about and they're going down to Olympia to testify or be a part of something and you want to join, let us know and we'll try to support you in that. Otherwise, we'll be looking for some opportunities to bring you down as well, if that's something that you're interested in doing, and meet with our legislators and just see how this process works, because it's really exciting. And frankly, they like to hear from you way more than they like to hear from us. It really makes a difference. So if you're interested, let's go down to Olympia. All right. Our next meeting is going to be a business meeting here on February 4th. You guys will just be flying in that day. I think Lori's working the flight. They're flying in, so if the flight's delayed, Jennifer, we're in trouble. February 4th, 2025, 6 o'clock p.m. at Swiftwater Elementary, right here in this room, and at 8:18, we're adjourned.